Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're diving headfirst into one of the most electrifying, gut-punching moments ever to hit television screens, a clash so raw, so intense, it turned a simple talk show segment into a cultural tsunami. Imagine this: a country music icon, adored by millions, steps into the high-stakes glitz of daytime TV, only to get ambushed by one of America's fiercest, most outspoken hosts. What unfolded wasn't just a debate, it was a verbal slugfest that left the studio audience speechless. The internet on fire and the entertainment world spinning before we tear into this unforgettable saga. Smash that subscribe button and drop comment below. What do you think about celebrities standing tall on live TV? Are they bold trailblazers or just fueling chaos? Let's jump in the scene was set on a crisp New York City morning. Blake Shelton, the larger-than-life country music titan, sauntered onto the set of The View with his trademark swagger, tipping his cowboy hat to a roaring crowd with chart topping hits, a coaching gig on The Voice, and a fan base stretching from the heartland to the coast. Blake was there to promote his latest album and upcoming tour routine celebrity appearance. Or so it seemed. The audience buzzed, the lights blazed, and the hosts Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and the ever-fiery Joy Behar were ready to dive in, but nobody could have predicted the verbal inferno about to erupt. Well, look who's decided to grace us with his presence. Joy Behar voice sliced through. The applause sharp as a razor blade. Blake settled into the guest chair, his easy grin steady, but his eyes caught a spark of challenge. Blake Shelton, the voice of rural America, or should I say a very specific part of rural America. The crowd's cheers wavered, a ripple of tension spreading. Blake tilted his head, his Oklahoma drawl smooth as bourbon. Good morning to you, too, Joy. Always a pleasure to sit down with you lovely ladies. His charm was disarming. But Joy wasn't biting, oh cut the charm offensive. Blake, she fired back, leaning forward with glint in her. Let's get real. Your recent comments about small-town values. You seem to think growing up in a small town makes you more moral, more patriotic than us city folks. Care to explain that? The other host swapped uneasy glances, feeling the room's temperature spike. Whoopi, try to steer things with a gentle now. Let's talk about the new album. But Joy was a runaway freight train, and she wasn't slowing down. Blake's smile held, but his jaw tightened just a fraction. Joy, I never said that. What I said was small towns teach you values, community, helping your neighbor, working hard for what you got. I didn't say anything about being better than anybody else. His voice was steady, but the air crackled with tension. Joy waved a hand dismissively, her tone dripping sarcasm. Oh, please, Blake. That's exactly what you implied. You country stars love to paint yourselves as the real Americans, while the rest of us what? Are we fake Americans? We're just as American as you are. Cowboy. The audience went silent, the weight of Joy's words heavy as a storm cloud. Sarah Haynes tried to jump in with a question about Blake's tour, but Joy wasn't done. You know what bugs me most about this whole small-town superiority complex? She pressed on her hands, gesturing wildly. It's that you get to sit there judging the rest of us while raking in millions, singing about pickup trucks and dirt roads. You've been living in Hollywood and Nashville for years. Blake, when was the last time you actually lived in one of these small towns you're always crooning about? Blake's relaxed posture stiffened his shoulders, squaring like a man ready to dig in. Joy, I may live in Nashville now, but I haven't forgotten where I come from. I was raised in Ada, Oklahoma, population 12,000. My dad worked construction. My mom ran a beauty shop. I know what it's like to grow up where everybody knows your name. His voice was calm, but fire burned beneath it. Joy didn't miss a beat. And now you're worth hundreds of millions with mansions in multiple states and private jets, don't you think? It's a little disingenuous to keep playing the common man card. The audience gasped, sensing the conversation veering into treacherous waters. Blake's famous grin finally cracked, his eyes narrowing. You know what, Joy? Just because someone makes it big doesn't mean they forget their roots. I've been blessed, no question. But that doesn't change who I am or where I come from. And proud of that. Joy smirked, leaning back in her chair, proud enough to exploit it for profit. Your whole brand is built on this mythology of simple country folk versus sophisticated city people. It's divisive, Blake, and frankly, it's getting old. The studio was a powder keg, now the tension, so thick you could slice it with a blade. Whoopi tried again to pivot, her voice calm but firm. Let's talk about the music. Blake would inspire the new album, but Blake wasn't in the mood to play nice anymore, exploit it. He repeated, his voice rising for the first time. Joy, I write songs about my life, my experiences, the people I grew up with. That's not exploitation, that's authenticity. And if you can't tell the difference, maybe that says more about you than it does about me. Joy's eyes flashed with fury. Authenticity? Give me a break, Blake. You're about as authentic as a $3 bill. You're a manufactured product, just like every other country star churned out by the Nashville machine. The audience gasped again, louder this time, as the other host shifted uncomfortably. Blake stood slowly, his 6'5" frame towering over the panel, his voice steady. "But Ice, oh, do you know what joy I've sat here and taken your shots? Because I respect this show and most of the people on it, but I'm not going to sit here and let you attack my character and my integrity. Oh, did I strike a nerve?" Joy taunted, clearly relishing the reaction. "The truth hurts, doesn't it, Blake?" He shook his head, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "The truth is you've been sitting behind that desk for years, throwing stones at people, tearing them down, making snide remarks about anyone who doesn't share your worldview, and you call that entertainment." Joy's face flushed red, her voice rising high. "Call it honesty, something you might want to try sometime." Blake's laugh was sharp, cutting through the tension. "Honesty, Joy, honesty would be admitting you made up your mind about me before I even walked in here. You don't want a conversation. You want to fight." Joy leaned back, arms crossed defiantly. "Maybe I do. Maybe it's time someone called you out on your act." The studio was electric, now the cameras rolling as the confrontation spiraled into uncharted territory. Blake took a step closer to the panel, his voice steady but laced with steel. "You want to call me out? Fine. Let's do this properly. Then you sit there every day criticizing people you've never met, places you've never been, experiences you've never had. You talk about small towns like they're a joke, like the people there are beneath you." Joy's eyes narrowed. "I never said they were beneath me. I said your portrayal of them is fake." Blake's voice grew louder, his drawl thick with emotion. "My portrayal I didn't read about small towns in a book or watch them on TV. I lived it. I grew up in a place where when your neighbor's barn burned down, 20 families showed up the next day to rebuild it, where when someone got sick, the whole town rallied around them. That's not fake. That's real life. Oh, spare me the Norman Rockwell painting." Joy snapped, cutting him off. "Small towns have problems too, Blake. Poverty, addiction, close-mindedness. But you never sing about that, do you? You only sing about the pretty parts." Blake's hands clenched into fists at his sides, his voice steady but intense. "You think I don't know about the hard parts? My hometown struggle with factory closures, young people leaving because there aren't enough jobs. I've seen families lose everything. But you know what? Those same people still look out for each other. They still have dignity. They still have heart. And they still vote for politicians who keep them struggling." Joy shot back, her voice sharp as a whip. "But I suppose that's not something you want to talk about." Either the other hosts were frantically signaling for a commercial break, but the confrontation was a runaway train. Blake pointed at Joy, his voice steady but firm. "There it is. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You think you know better than everyone else. You think you can sit in your New York studio and tell people in Oklahoma or Kansas or Iowa how they should think, how they should vote, how they should live their lives." Joy's voice turned shrill, her composure slipping. "Someone has to tell them the truth, Blake. Someone has to point out when they're being manipulated by people like you who profit off their nostalgia and their fears." Blake's laugh was bitter, cutting to the room. "People like me, Joy, I've never told anyone how to vote or how to think. I sing songs about my life experiences. Millions of people relate to it. That threatens you. Maybe you need to ask yourself why it doesn't threaten me. It disgusts me." Joy snapped, her voice trembling with anger. "This whole fake patriotism, this real American nonsense, as if the rest of us aren't real Americans too." Blake stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You know what disgusts me, Joy? The way you talk about patriotism like it's something to be ashamed of. The way you mock people who love their country, who respect the flag, who honor veterans. What's fake about that? Don't you dare question my patriotism." Joy shouted, standing up, now her chair scraping against the floor. "I've been fighting for this country's values longer than you've been alive. Real values, not this manufactured heartland mythology you peddle." Blake's voice rose to match hers, his calm demeanor shattered. "Fighting for this country's values by tearing down everyone who disagrees with you, by mocking traditions that mean something to people, by acting like half the country is too stupid to think for themselves." The audience was frozen, security guards inching closer to the set as the confrontation hit a fever pitch. Joy's voice was tight with fury. "I don't think they're stupid. I think they're being lied to by people like you who tell them their problems are someone else's fault." Blake shook his head, his voice heavy with disbelief. "Joy, I've never blamed anyone for anything in my music. I sing about working hard, about family, about finding joy in simple things. If that's controversial to you, then maybe you're the one with the problem." Don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated. Subscribe for more powerful video.